Hello, my friends. Today we're learning Basra Daf Kuf Samech Zayin. We can read the Gemara and explain. Amar Abaye, ahai man debaye lemichve chatimat yedeid bebeidina. Lo lachve beshof megilta, dil mamash kach lo acher vekativ demasik bezuze, ותנן הוציא עליו כתב ידו שהוא חייב לו גובה מנכסים נכורים. ההוא בזבינה תעתה לקמי דאביה, אמר לי, נחזה לימר חתימת ידי, דכי עטו רבנן מחווה לי מעברנה לו בלא מכסה. אך ולי בריש מגילתא, וכנגד בי, אמר לי, כבר קדמוך רבנן. So Abaye says, if someone needs to show his signature to Bezdin, that they should recognize it, and he needs to sign on an empty blank piece of paper, so you shouldn't write it at the end of the piece of paper. You should write it at the top of the paper, but no one could write anything on top of it. And what's the reason? Because if you write it at the bottom of the piece of paper, maybe someone who's not honest is going to find this piece of paper and he's going to write on it, you, Reuven ben Shimon, owes me $1 million. And then there is a signature at the bottom of Reuven ben Shimon. And we learned in the Mishnah that if someone brings out a piece of paper with his writing that it says he owes him, it's a Aryeh to be goiva from him. You can't take from the chosim mishupadim, but you can take from the chosim nechorim. Therefore, you should always sign at the top, and therefore no one could write anything higher on top of the signature, only below the signature, and below the signature doesn't mean anything. Says the Gemara, there was this guy who worked in the customs. He came to Abaye and he told him, show me how your signature, and then when Talmidei Chachamim come pass through the customs, send a letter with them saying that they don't need to pay the custom, and I'll let them go without paying the customs. So Abaye said, no problem. And he took the piece of paper, and he wanted to write at the top of the piece of paper, like Abaye just said, not to write at the bottom that someone could write on top. So this guy, who wasn't the honest guy, the customs collector, he was pulling the paper so that Abaye should write in the middle, so afterwards he could write on top of it wherever he wants. So Abaye told him, Rabbanon already came before you and told us not to write at the bottom or in the middle of the piece of paper, and therefore you weren't able to trick me. And he saved himself from being tricked, that the guy will take the piece of paper and sign on top wherever he wants. Fill in. Let's continue the Gemara. Amar Abaye, מתלת ועד 10 לא לכתוב בסוף שיטה דין ומזייף וכתב ויתרם אלי נהדרי לדיבור היתרן מתלס הזמנים אי אפשר דלא מתרם אלי באמצע שיטה. So says Abaye another din. From when you want to write in a document, let's say of Alvod 3 until 10, so you shouldn't write it at the end of the line where there's a little bit of a space, because someone could fake it. Because echod or tarti no one could fake, but if you write class, someone could add in yud nun and it will be klosin. Instead of owing 3, it'll be owed 30. Arba, you could fill in arboim, and so on. So therefore, you should not write it at the end, because then the malva, could add in a few letters and it will be a much bigger sum. And if it came out that you did write it at the end of the line, what should you do? You should repeat what it says in the shtar again, a few times, 2 or 3 times, and one of those times for sure you'll get a matzah that's not written at the end of the line, and therefore the guy won't be able to add in any letters to fake it. Says the Gemara story, Ahu dehave kativ beitilta bepardisa, az machte legage de bet vekared, veshavye pardisa, ata lekamida Abaye amar le baitayim revicha le alma lahai, vav kafte veoida. So another story, there was this guy, the first story that it said in the shtar that he bought a third of an orchard. So it said tilta, that's a third, bepardisa of an orchard. What did he do? From the base of Paradisa, he rubbed off the top and the bottom of the base where it goes out from the right to the left. And he left there, it says instead of tilsa bepardisa, it said tilsa vepardisa. And then he came and he said, the guy sold me also the garden and also vepardisa and the whole orchard, not a third in the orchard, the whole orchard. This case came in front of Abaye, and Abaye realized that between the base or the vav that's now in the vepardisa and the pay, there's a big space. So he asked him, why is there such a big space? Doesn't make sense. It looked like he deleted something. So he hit him until the guy admitted that he rubbed it out because he tried forging the star to take more of the orchard. A similar story says the Gemara, Ave katav manat Reuben v'Shimon achi avelahu achad shmei achi. Azal katvivav v'shavye v'achi ata lekamei da'abaya. Amar le mai ta medachik le almalai vav kulai kafta v'oidi. So a similar story. Someone had a document saying that he bought the portion of Reuven and Shimon brothers, and he bought the portion of land that they had somewhere. Now this Reuven and Shimon had another brother called Achi. So what did the guy do? And he also had a portion of land in that place. He added a vav to the Achi. So instead of saying Reuven and Shimon brothers, it said Reuven v'Shimon ve'Achi. That means the portions of Reuven, Shimon, and the person who's called Achi. So he basically forged the star to able to take another portion of land. This case came in front of Abaye. He asked the person, why is it the reason that between Shimon and Ve'achi there's so little space? Why is that vav so squashed? So he hit the person, and the person admitted that he added the vav to take away the portion of Ve'achi. He tried forging the star. Said the Gemara, another story. Our star. דאב חתים עלי רובע ורב אחא בר עדה עושה לקמי דרובע אומר לי דין חתימוס יודו דידיהי מי הוא קמי דרב אחא בר עדה לא יחתימי לי מאוילום כפתי ואוידה אומר לי בישלי מדידי זייפתו אלו דרב אחא בר עדה דרוסיס יודי איך עבדת אומר אנחי יודי המצרו ואמר לו קומה זרקונה וכוסה. So the story is the following. There was a star that was the signature of the Eidim on the star were Rava and Rav Acha bar Ada. The star came in front of Rava. He said, yes, I recognize this is my signature. It looks exactly like the way I sign. But I never ever signed on a document together with Rav Acha bar Ada. So he hit this person who brought the star, and the guy admitted that he faked it, that he forged the star. So Rava told this person, okay, very good, you faked my signature. Okay, you're good. You know how to forge well. You saw my signature and you faked it. But Rav Acha bar Ada, who shakes, he was old or he had some problem that he used to shake. How did you fake it? It's hard to fake someone who shakes. His hand's not stable. So he said, I put my hand on a bridge, on the string of a bridge that shakes, and then I signed, so my hand was shaking. Or some people say that he said he stood fully on a bridge that shakes, like a bridge that's a swinging bridge, and then he signed on the paper, and therefore his signature was wobbly, and therefore it looked like the original signature, and that's the way he managed to forge a signature of a person whose handwriting wasn't stable. Says the Mishnah, כותבים גט לאיש אף על פי שאין אשתו עמו והשובר לאישה, אף על פי שאין אשתו עמו והשובר לאישה אף על פי שאין בעלה עמה, ובלבד שיהיה מכירן. והבעל נותן שכר. כותבים שטר ללווה, אף על פי שאין מלווה עמו, ואין כותבים למלווה עד שיהיה לווה עמו. והלווה נותן שכר. כותבים שטר למוכר, אף על פי שאין לוקח עמו, ואין כותבים ללוקח עד שיהיה מוכר עמו, והלוקח נותן שכר. אין כותבים שטרי אירוסין ונישואים, אלא מדעת שניהם, והחתן נותן שכר. אין כותבים שטר ריסות וקבלנות, אלא מדעת שניהם, והמקבל נותן שכר. אין כותבים שטרי בירורים וכל מעשה בדין, אלא מדעת שניהם, ושניהם נותנים שכר. רבי שמעון גמליאל אומר, לשניהם כותבים שניים לזה לעצמו ולזה לעצמו. After we finish reading the Mishnah, we're going to explain it. So it says in the Mishnah is going to discuss in what cases can you write a shtar to a person even if the other person who's involved in the shtar is not there, and what cases you can't, and who is the person who has to pay for the soifa to write the shtar. So the Mishnah starts with a get, that if a person wants a get, he goes to Bezdin and says to a soifa, I want to write a get to my wife, and his wife is not there. So because a person could forcefully divorce his wife, he doesn't need her willingness, so Bezdin or the soifa could write a get even if his wife is not there. And a receipt that a woman will give, a woman comes to Bezdin and she says, I want to write a receipt that I accepted my ksuva, that I got paid my ksuva. So even if the husband's not there, so the Bezdin could write the receipt. But we say one condition, it needs that we know the name of this person. We're going to see in the Gemara if we need the name of the husband and the wife, or only the husband, but we need to know the name to recognize that this is Reuven, and then we can write in the shtar, Reuven divorcing his wife. And who pays for the document of a get? Says the Mishnah, the husband is the one who pays for this document. Says the Mishnah on Kuf Samech Zayin Amud Beis, if a loiva comes to Bezdin and he says, I want to write a document that I owe someone $1 million, even if the malva is not there, we can write it to him because it's his loss if he loses it or he gets somehow to the malva without getting the money. So if he wants to take the risk, no problem. But we don't write to the malva if there's no loiva of him, because if we're going to write it to the malva, he might just go and say, I gave you a loan, pay me back. And who has to pay for the document of alva? Says the Mishnah, the loiva has to pay for it because he's benefiting from this loan. Continue the Mishnah, that someone wants to sell his field and he goes to Bezdin and he says, I want to write a shtar mechira that I'm selling to Ploini my field. Even if Ploini is not with him, we could write that for him. But obviously we don't write for the loikeach if the moicha is not with him, because then he's going to tell he bought his field even if he didn't. And who has to pay for the document of a mechira? The loikeach, the buyer, needs to pay for the price to write the document. Now, says the Mishnah, a few cases where you're not allowed to write a shtar only if both of them are there. And what's that case? Shtar erusim v'nisuim, obligations that the chosen or the parents of the chosen have the kala, obligating towards the marriage, towards the chasana. Only if both of them are there, you could write it, because if you write it only to one side, you might say, this is what you promised, or you write it to the other side side's going to say, this is what you promised, so you need them both there to agree, and then you can write it. And who needs to pay for this document? The chosen needs to pay for it. And says a Mishnah, Shtori arisus v'kablonus. Arisus is when a person, let's say Reuven, goes into Shimon's field, and he gives him, and he takes care of the field for the next few years or the next year, and a certain percentage of what grows goes to the owner of the field. That's arisus. And kablonos is renting a field for a fixed price a year, so that you need both of them to be there to write such a shtar. V'amekabel, that means the one who's a renter, who's renting it, or the one who's getting the arisus, who's going to take care of the field, he has to pay for the document, to write the document. Shtori birurim, we're going to see in the Gemara what that means, and all nice Bezdin. You don't write it only midas shneim, only if you both over there in Bezdin who say, and they say we want to write it. And they both need to pay for those documents. They pay fairly for those documents, each one 50%. Rab Shimon Gamliel says, and Shtori birurim, you write 2 documents for each side in the story. You write a document, and therefore each one pays for his own side, for his own document. Says the Gemara, Umay ubilvad she'e mekiran, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, ubilvad she'e makir shem ha'ish baget v'shem ha'isha bashovar. Yativ Rav Safra v'Rav Acha bar Una v'Rav Huna bar Chinena v'yativ Abaye gabayu v'yatvi v'kami bailu shem ha'ish baget in שם האישה לא, שם האישה בשובר אין, שם האיש לא, ולכו שדימה כתב גיטה ואזילו ממתלה לאיתתא דאייך, וזימנים אזלה כתבה האישה שובר ויאהבה לגבה דלאו דילי. אמר לו אביי, אחי אמר רב, שם האיש בגט, והוא הדין לשם האישה, שם האישה בשובר, והוא הדין לשם האיש. ולכו לשני יוסף בן סימון הדרים בעיר אחת, דילמה כתיב גיטה ואזילו ממתלה לאיתתא דאייך, אמר לו רב אחא בר אונה, אחי אמר רב, שני יושב בן שמעון, הדרים בעיר אחת, אין מגרשים נשותיהם, אלא זה בפני זה. ולכו שדילמה אזי למטה אחרינה, ומחזיק ללשמע ביוסף בן שמעון, וכתיב גיטה וממתלה לאיתתא דאייך. אמר לו רב הונא בר חיננה, אחי אמר רב, כל שהוחזק שמו בעיר 30 יום, אין חוששים לו. לא יתחזק מאי, אמר אביי, דקאו לי, ואני, רב זבידה מרמה ברמאותה זעיר. So we're going to explain this Gemara. So the Gemara says, we learned in the Mishnah that you only write a get or shoiva or receipt for ksuva if you recognize them. What does that mean? Says the Gemara. So Rav Yehuda in the name of Rad says it means that you only write it, like I explained in the Mishnah, if you recognize that the person who's coming to Beis Din and says, I want to divorce my wife, and my name is Reuven, we have to recognize that his name is actually Reuven. And when the woman wants to write a shoiva receipt that she accepted her get, we need that she accepted her ksuva, we need to recognize that this woman, her name is Rachel, as she claims. So Rav Safra and Rav Acha, the son of Rav Huna, and Rav Huna, the son of Rav Chinina, they were sitting, and Rabbi was sitting in front of them. And they were sitting and they asked the Shaila, why are we good enough to know the name of the man in the get? It's mashma, but the name of the woman in the get, you don't need to know. And it says also that we need to know the name of the woman in the shoiva, and the receipt, but you don't need to know the name of the man. Why that? Let's be choishish. Maybe this Reuven, who comes to Beis Din and he says, I want to write me a get that Reuven was Megarish Leo. He doesn't want it for his own wife. His wife has a different name. He wants it for a different Reuven who's married to Leo. And the woman who's writing a shoiva receipt that she says, I'm Rachel, and I'm writing a shoiva to my husband Reuven that I got the ksuva. Really, her name is Rachel, but her husband's name is something else, but she's writing it for a different Rachel who her husband's name's Reuven. To give it to him, they shouldn't have to pay his ksuva to his wife. So you could forge it. So Abaye was sitting in front of them and he told them that Rav said, when we said the name of the man of the get, we also need to know the name of the woman. I mean, it's not enough just to recognize, oh, this is Reuven, so we could believe him, that's his wife's name. We also need to know what's his wife's name, and only then you could write the get if the wife's not there. And also by the receipt, when we write a receipt for a woman on a ksuva, and we said even if the husband's not there, but we need to know that her husband, his name is so and so, and then we could write the shoiva, and therefore there's nothing to be choishish for. Ask the Gemara, let's be choishish that there's two Yosef ben Shimon who live in the same city. And Yosef ben Shimon is going to come to Beis Din and say, I'm Yosef ben Shimon, and we know that's his name, right? Please write me a get, I'm divorcing my wife Rachel. And he's going to give it to the other Yosef ben Shimon, to the other Rachel that's married to Yosef ben Shimon, and it's going to be a forged get. So Rav Acha bar Una answered, this is what Rav said. When you have two people, the name with the same name, they're not allowed to divorce the wife, only one in front of the other one, because we're choishish for this chashash. And if they didn't do it in front of each other, there's nothing to be choishish for. It won't be a good get, and therefore there's nothing to be choishish because you can't forge our way. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you another chashash. Maybe this guy is going to go to a different city. A guy is called Reuven is going to go to a different city. He wants to forge a get for the wife of Shimon. She's going to go to a different city. He's going to say, my name is Shimon, and my wife's name is Rachel. And he's going to tell them, okay, could you please write a get for Shimon who's divorcing Rachel? His real name is Reuven, but the Beis Din in this new city won't know. And then he's going to go back to his own city, give it to the woman who he wants her to be divorced, and it'll be a forged get. So said to them Rav Huna, the son of Chinina, this is what Rav said. You could only write a get, Beis Din will only write a get without the woman over there. In such a case, only if he was muchzik that this is his name, Reuven or Shimon, wherever he's called going by, 30 days. And therefore, a person won't go 30 days and say, my name is Shimon, because he's scared someone's going to come and recognize and say, what? Why is everyone calling you Shimon? Your name is Reuven, and his trick's going to be found. So he won't do it for 30 days, and therefore there's nothing to be choishish for. Says the Gemara, what's the din if he wasn't mischazik? If he doesn't have the chazaka of 30 days, can you write him a get or not? So Abaye says, yeah, we could test him. Beis Din are going to go randomly to him in the street and shout to him, Shimon! If he turns around, it shows that his name is really Shimon, and if he doesn't turn around, it means that his name is not really Shimon and he's only a faker. Rav Zvit said, no, you can't trust that. Someone who's a liar, he's a ramai, he's Lektin is lying, and when he hears Shimon, even if his name is Reuven, he's going to turn around straight away because he's so much in the game to be called Shimon, and therefore you can't trust that. And the only way to trust is to wait 30 days and see that he's really called Shimon, and that's why everyone call him, and then you could write him a get. Continue the Gemara. Autava, Dave Chatim alei Rav Irmiyah bar Abba, Astia lekamei Aitita Amrele, Lav Hana Havai. אמר, נמי אמרי לאו היא. ואמרו לי, מי כשותיקה שלה הוא בגר לקולה. אמר אביי, אף על גב דאמר רבנן, כיוון שהגיד, שוב, אינו חוזר ומגיד, צורנו מרבנן לאו אורחי למידק. אהו תברא דאבי חתים עלי רב ירמיה בר אבא, אמר לי לאו ענה אביי, אמר לה איברא, אנתברא, אמר אביי, אף על גב דצורנו מרבנן לאו אורחי למידק, כיוון דדק. So we have here two stories of Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. The first story was that came a receipt that said the signature was Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba was the signature on this receipt. And so came the woman in front of Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba and he said to her, it says that you signed on this document, this is my name, as if I got paid my ksuva. And as if I got paid my ksuva. This name is mine, but you never signed on my receipt. There was never such a thing. Do you remember signing on my receipt? So Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba told her, I also admit to you, I remember signing on such a name, but it wasn't you. I don't recognize you. And I also told the other Eidim on the shtar that this is not you, it's a different person. And they told me, the other Eidim on the shtar, they said, no, it is you. You know what happened? You got older, your voice got thicker, and since you got older and your voice thicker, you changed, and therefore I don't recognize, but really it's you, and really it is you. So Abaye said, even though that we have a din that we learn from the Pasuk, that since a person said the Eidus he can't be choiza, and Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba at the beginning admitted to this woman that he doesn't recognize her. But since he's a Talmud Chacham is not normally made like a woman to recognize a woman a long time afterwards. He saw you, he signed on it, he didn't recognize you, and even if, therefore, since he doesn't recognize you properly, it's not called that he's saying Eidus and he's Choyzubo, he just didn't recognize you, but once they mentioned him, oh, maybe her voice changed, suddenly he realized that's really you, and therefore it's not considered that he went back on his Eidus that he said at the beginning. And then the next story is a similar story, that there was a receipt on a ksuva that was signatured by Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. And she told him, it's not me. And in this time, Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba said, no, it is you. The truth is, it is you. Said Abaye, even though that we said that a Talmud Chacham is not darkei to meidak and to recognize, but since in this time Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba said that I do recognize you, now if he's going to change his mind later, he can't change his mind. It's called Magid or Choyzer Magid. That's the way Tosfos learns. And therefore, in that case where he says, I do recognize you, in the case where we said before, he said he doesn't recognize you and then he recognizes you, he could be Choyzer. But in the case where he says, I do recognize you, that's it, he can't be Choyzer anymore from his Eidos. We're going to just read the next little part of the Gemara till the two dots. Amar Abaye Tzuba merabanan de'ada lekidusha isita nidbar im haaretz ba'adei dilma machluf lamine. So it's a continuation to we said that a Talmud Chacham doesn't recognize a woman very well. So Abaye says if a Talmud Chacham going to Mikadesh a woman, they told him you have a shidduch in that town, a woman, you met her once, and her name is so and so. Go, she wants to be Mikadesh. He's going to the other town. You should take with him a Ma'aretz who knows better about women than him, because the chashash is he might come and they'll swap him a woman, they'll give him another woman that he's never met, and he will, Talmud Chacham is left in learning he doesn't chat, and he'll be Mekadesh, and afterwards it will be too late. So therefore you should bring with you someone who knows about women that he'll recognize to say, is that the same woman or not? Thank you very much. Today is a very big day. It's a yortzeit of my grandmother Rochel Masha Baschaya Esther. So the shir today should be Le'ilu Nishmosa, and I pray that she's in Gan Eden and she's taking care of davening to Hashem and Me'or Rachmim Gdolim for her kids, for her grandkids, for her great-grandkids, for all her descendants and for all Klal Yisrael. Thank you very much.